let's find out how we can secure our communications by following the rules. So let's define what we're going to talk about. We want to make it harder for an eavesdropper. That's someone listening in. We're going to focus on handheld radios. What you don't want to do is give out important information that can be used to figure out where you are, who you are, and exactly what you're doing. So one of the first steps is monitor the channels and frequencies in your area to find out what is normal. Check repeater books to find out what repeaters are used. Get licensed if using amateur radio or GMRS, because you are supposed to be licensed to use those. Figure out which of these plans you will implement. Find out what friends are already using, and then buy the radios. So in monitoring the channels or frequencies to find out what's normal in your area, you want to develop a report card. So in my area, for GMRS or FRS, because you can't always tell, they're the same frequencies. Channel 1, we have kids that play on these channels a lot. That's usually because if you replace the batteries, it defaults to channel 1. And it's understandable that people are lazy and don't switch to a different channel. Also, channels 16, 17, and 22 have either close or distant repeaters. The close ones, I can hear what they're saying. The ones farther away, they break, squelch, and just kind of get in the way. So what have I chosen? So my GMRS channel, which no one owns any GMRS channel, but I've chosen channel 18 with a CTCSS tone of 67.0 hertz. The CTCS is used so that someone just using the channel 18 without it doesn't break, squelch. That way my wife doesn't get annoyed by other people while monitoring the radio. In our area, for MURS, channel 1 breaks, squelch from a distant user. I can't hear what they're saying, but the squelch breaks. So using channel 1 for me would not be that good. On CB, of course, channel 19 is the truckers, but we have a local guy who likes to tease the truckers. Channel 14 seems to be used by some local guys. I haven't figured out yet if they're a work crew. They kind of seem like a work crew because it's like their time off that they start talking. So if I wanted a more private channel, I would pick something else. So as far as picking the radios, one thing you could do is pick a Part 90, which are business radios. These can be legally encrypted. The radios tend to be higher cost. You'll also have to register the frequency that you use, which you might not want to do. And they lacks interoperability. I can't say that word now. Interoperability. They can't communicate with Part 95 or 97 radios. So 95 is the personal radio service, and Part 97 is the amateur radio service. You can transmit and receive using different frequencies to transmit and receive. Now this only works with 2 radios in the system. So radio 1 will transmit on frequency 1, and radio 2 is set to receive frequency 1. Radio 2 is set to transmit on frequency 2, and radio 1 is set to receive on frequency 2. How this gets secured is whoever's listening only hears half the conversation. You can develop a normal channel and tactical channel. This works with any number of radios. What you do on the normal channel is just your everyday communications. It's your common frequency. And then when you want to get a little more private, because assuming people have picked up by monitoring that your normal channel is whatever it is, you would switch to a tactical channel. You announce the channel change to your group, and they go to a predetermined, rarely used frequency by you. And that'll take a while for someone to figure out what channel you've moved to. A while could be really quick, or it could be a while. Depends on the radio service you're using. When using MURS, I like to reserve channels 4 and 5 as the tactical channels. So you would use channel 1, 2, or 3 for your normal comms, pick one, and then switch to channels 4 or 5 for tactical use. Now, one thing I'll say, if you live close to Walmart or Sam's Club, and you're going to use a CTCSS code, don't use 67, 131.8, or 250.3. From what I understand, these are codes that they use, so you don't want to pick up on what they're saying, and you don't want them to be able to listen to you. They also use some channels without any coding, so they can hear whatever you're saying. All right, another thing to do is transmit using a lower power. When we buy a radio, we want it to have the most power, transmit as far as we can, but the farther we transmit, the more people could hear us. So if you can communicate to your people on a low or medium power, then do it. This also helps with your battery life. So let's look at these circles here. So we got the two blue smiley faces. Those are the people you're trying to communicate with, and you. If you use low power, you have the green circles for the radius of travel. So you guys can hear each other, so you're happy. And you'll see the guys in the red, they're kind of sad, because when you use high power, they can hear you. When you use low power, they can't. The one guy above the two green circles, when you both use high power, he can hear both people. All right, you can talk in code, but is that legal? Some would say it's not, but let's look what the code says. So, no person shall use a personal radio service station to transmit a false or deceptive communication. So if you heard somebody say on the radio, the muskrat is rowing the boat, obviously that's an obscured message. So that wouldn't be legal. But you can use normal communication security methods. So what would be okay is, meet me at the store on Main Street. Now you didn't say what store or the address or what part of Main Street. Based on your normal patterns, the people you're talking to would know what you mean. You can also say change to the next channel. That doesn't mean you have to say, we're on channel 3, so now turn to channel 7. Have a predetermined set of channels that you would switch through. Now, if you say change to the next channel, and that means meet me at the store on Main Street, then that wouldn't be okay. So it's okay if you're really doing a QSY, which is Q codes for changing channel. So the little box over there, 10 codes are okay, Q codes are okay. So if you find a 10 code, public safety 10 code that says fire, fire can mean a lot of different things. You can use the 10 codes cleverly. Assigning unit numbers or tactical call signs. Okay, do you really want to say somebody's name on the radio? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Now, if you're in an amateur radio service or GMRS where you are supposed to use your call sign, you only need to use your call sign and the limits of that. I have another video on IDing. Unit numbers can be defined to confuse a listener, but you're not obscuring the message. If you say Unit 19, 10.7, what that means is Unit 19, which is you. 10.7 is a 10 code for out of service, leaving the air. So Unit 19.10.7 would mean I will be off the radio for a while. Now you have to train the people in your group to understand what this all means. Tactical call signs should be descriptive. I live in a neighborhood that has 2 entrances. So our tactical call signs, if we were to have to set up guard or watch who's coming in and who's coming out and report, we would just call ourselves entrance 1 and entrance 2. Now people would have to try to figure out which entrance is which, and they could, so maybe the following day you change the numbers around. Use quadrant 4. That would be specific description of a certain part of the neighborhood. All right, digital radios. So in the amateur radio service, we have 3 choices. You have DMR, which is digital mobile radio. It's open source. There's a lot of inexpensive radios that use it, and it's very popular. Popular can be good and it could be bad. There's D-Star, which is the ICOM method, meaning digital smart technologies for amateur radio. The bad thing about this is the cost of entry is really high. The radios that use D-Star are very expensive. There's also System Fusion. It's the most recent release for digital radios, so it's the least used. The good thing is there's a low-cost entry radio, Yaesu model FT70DR, for about $175. So speaking simplex to each other, so radio to radio, any of these will work and make your signal digital, but it's not obscuring the signal. And then if you want to use FRS unlicensed, Motorola has a really cool radio. It's the T800. You get a set of 2 for $100. And you can pair these with your cell phone and actually type text messages on your cell phone, and the radio will send it to the other radio. Range on these isn't going to be great. The power is pretty low. It's not GMRS powers. Use unpopular ham bands. The 220 megahertz is used a lot in dense areas though. So if you're in populated areas like in California, especially, 220 is used a lot because the 440 and the 144 bands are pretty packed. So let's look at some handheld radios that you can buy in 2021 that have other frequencies. The Alinco DJ G7T actually transmits on normal 2 meters, 70 centimeters, but also 23 centimeters, which is 1,220 megahertz. Generally, the power output is going to be lower on these, but nobody's going to be monitoring on the 23 centimeter band. If you do use the 220, if you decide on that, there's more radios available. I just put down 3 of them. The BTEC, which is the US reseller for Baofeng radios. So they do go through these. The UV5X3, meaning 3 bands. The TYT TH350 and the Ocean KG UV7D. Now there's also the 900 megahertz band available And at this time, I don't know of any specific ham radios that transmit on this. But you could buy some used business radios probably if you really wanted to use this band. And here's a couple websites for reference to see about different frequency database lists and how the different services are used, who generally uses MURS channel 1 and 3 for certain things. All right, like and share. Bye.